Hey YouTubers, it's me, Lonnie Clark, Nuts for Art. So this is take like 5 or 6 because I keep rambling on as soon as I start talking about other things that I don't think are necessary. So I'm just going to plod through this. How about that? I really wanted to come to you and share with you a few things. Um, First, I want to tell you thank you. Knowing that I have a YouTube community that has been with me for 5 or 6 years, people who respect my point of view and who share my point of view and give me good constructive criticism. It's like having family. And in fact, that's what makes me want to come to you, is thinking about sharing with you information about my family. I have something else I want to talk to you about first. So I'll tell you about my sister in just a second. But I really want to talk about this. I read an article today about how the International Olympic Committee has written the rules so that none of the American athletes can take a knee for the maltreatment and the police brutality in the United States. And they said among other ideas, like as if other nations are going to be protesting in a way that they find offensive. So they really wrote these rules to stop the conversation about the brutality by the police towards black people and people of color in this country, which is a reality. It's not a made up thing. It is a reality, hardcore reality. If you're a person of color, you know that's true. And if you're white and you say, oh, well, that's not true, it's because you're white. So let's just get real. But what I thought was so ironic is here they're going through all these hoops of writing these rules about how you can protest, and yet they're going to be allowing the Olympic athletes to be fed rice that they know this has happened, that the rice in Fukushima is mixed. A good portion of it is non-contaminated rice, and a tiny portion of it, a little bit of it, is radioactive, highly radioactive, poisonous radioactive. Comes from areas where they shouldn't really be growing rice, but they need the money, so they're letting them do it, right? So this is the insanity of it, because if an athlete eats one of those kernels with radioactive rice, they might have a plate full of rice, and a half a piece of rice in it is radioactive. That athlete has been contaminated and will have negative effects from it. And it's cumulative, and you don't know when it's going to strike. The inhumanity of the nuclear industry is beyond comprehension. I drove to California. Now, let me tell you about the second part because this brings into this whole idea. It's kind of all one idea, but it's the denial. You know, my thing is about the nuclear denial. So I drove out last week to go see my sister. My stepmother called me on Thursday. I left Thursday. So she called me Thursday morning at 6:30 and said, I know you were planning on coming in February to see Becky, but you better come right now because the hospice care lady is here. They're releasing her from the hospital. They're not going to operate. It's a matter of weeks. So if you want to see her, you better come see her now. So I spent the morning trying to figure out how to get to San Diego from Eugene, Oregon for less than $1,000. I didn't have more than $500 to spend. So that was it. That was like max budget that I could spend. So I ended up deciding to drive because I couldn't find a ticket. Like, there was nothing. I found one ticket for $760, but I wouldn't get there till Thursday night at 1 p.m. or Friday night at 1 p.m. So I thought, well, dang, by the time I get there for that price, I can drive there, which is what I did. I drove from Eugene to Oceanside. And I broke it up in 2 days, but I ended up the first night driving from 7, well, I left Eugene at 8 a.m. until 1:30, and then the next day I just woke up early at the hotel. I stopped at a hotel in Dunsmuir, which I highly recommend. It's a sweet little town right next to Mount Shasta. um, and drove all the way there the next day. And my sister, when I saw her Friday night, was coherent, grotesquely bloated, in a hospital bed, in a hospice bed. And they had brought a hospice bed. By the time I got there, my sister had been discharged from the hospital, and they brought a hospice bed home. And basically, they give her morphine every 2 to 4 hours, as much, they give her, I think, 10 milligrams or something. And then just to make her comfortable, because she's not going to live for very much longer. The cancer, her stomach is bloated because the cancer is growing inside of her. Nothing, her liver, her colon, nothing works. In fact, she doesn't really eat. I got there Friday night. She could take off her glasses and talk to me, and she was coherent, but she would fall asleep. At one point, she asked me, "How am I going to know I'm gone?" Interesting. I mean, my answer was, "You'll look at your body, you look great, and then you'll be talking to me and I won't hear you. So you'll know you're on the other side." And she's like, "Oh yeah, huh?" I mean, it was so surreal. So my brother, who I have not seen in probably 15 years, with his wife, who doesn't particularly like into me because I'm a flaming liberal, like I'm the kind of person that they would love to shoot in the back if I went to their hometown in Texas. I probably wouldn't make it out of there alive. They basically said to me that I did not understand my freak out, because the family has heard me say, it's kind of gotten around, that I literally place the blame of her getting this cancer on Fukushima and San Onofre. I mean, she moved to Oceanside 5 years ago. She lives 20 miles away from San Onofre nuclear power plant. Every morning she would go out onto the dock and walk around for half an hour, 45 minutes, because she was trying to get fit. And it's beautiful to walk out on the ocean. You can't see it, taste it, smell it, or feel it. And refuse to wear a mask, like a lunatic, have always been asking her. At least put on a face mask like you see in Japan. If you just stop it from going into your body, you'll be protected. Okay, so the family basically told me that I didn't really understand it because the power plant was closed down and there's no danger. And that even if it is leaking, even if those plants are leaking, it can't get down here. There was no conversation about Fukushima. That part of it left their brain. I mean, it is the level of denial. We're watching our own sister die of cancer within 5 years of moving. Although I do have to say, I have nieces that have grown up and have lived there a long time. But the one niece who does live there and who is healthy is a food freak. Like, she does not eat any sugar at all. She exercises rigorously. She eats vegetables and plant-based diet and juices every day and does yoga and is kind of a food freak. Does that mean that she'll be safe? No, but she's 42, has no kids, and her level of risk is lower because she's an older person and she eats healthy. Does it mean that she won't get cancer at some point continuing to live in Oceanside? No, I think that she will. And frankly, this is my come to Jesus moment. And this is really what I wanted to share with you, is like, we are all going to have to accept that this is how the human race is going to die. Like, we are going to be poisoned into sterility. Like, the people that don't die of cancer, their kids aren't going to have children. I mean, it to be honest, it is a stunning come to Jesus moment. Like, where you really hope that there's a possibility of miracles. And it's really difficult to believe in these miracles when you watch your family members get mowed down in 3 months. You should see the picture of my sister 3 months ago. She did not look sick. She wasn't jaundiced. She did appear sick, though. When I saw her last in October, I was at my dad's house, and she ate like a bird. And she'd take 2 sips of coffee and be full. She needed a rest all the time. She couldn't walk down. My dad and I both said to her, look, go to the doctor. We think something's wrong with you. But she's like, no, it's just my thyroid medicine, because she had Hashimoto's disease, which means because she had Hashimoto's disease, she had thyroid cancer when she was 18. Now, we're both baby boomers. We were both born in that time where we were exposed to radioactivity. And so it is not an accident. My little sister died of cancer, although she really died of alcoholism. She got cancer, but she killed herself with alcohol. I mean, the cancer kind of brought it all on, but who knows how she would have responded, because they caught her cancer in time. My sister Becky, she didn't get diagnosed till she was stage 4. She just ignored all of her symptoms for the last 2 years and didn't pay attention, didn't go to a doctor, she was like, well, she had symptoms, but she didn't want to deal with it. So I guess we choose our death, but this is a harsh reality, folks. This is where we really need to figure out, I don't know, does it matter if we stop the nuclear denial because we're already contaminated? I mean, is it important that people know? If people know, are they going to do anything about it? The people who own these corporations, all they care about is money, because they have enough money to buy the best medical care. And they think their kids aren't going to be born sterile. I mean, man, the human race has really screwed itself over big time this time around. This is not good. So, will I continue? Yeah. I'm going to, because you know what? If nothing else, for the sake of my sister. I mean, are we just going to say nothing while they kill our family? I mean, I can't even believe there's not huge protests in the streets today about the stupid traitor sending 3,000 of our soldiers to the Afghanistan area, where the government there has actually told them to leave. Murder, death, kill, murder, death, kill. That's the meme, huh? Have any of you guys seen Demolition Man? It's a comedy, but it's not really. You know, that's the weird thing about movies, is they kind of tell us what the plans are. Anyways, I'll end here. I see I'm at 13 minutes. I want to thank my viewers and my subscribers to watching my videos and sharing your thoughts with me. And I hope you're listening to the podcast, because a lot of the stuff on the podcast is pretty interesting. The last 2 weeks, last week I had half of it was an interview with Dr. Caldecott, but the other half was this story about the underreporting of fire in a nuclear blast. And I read it twice. I read it last week and this week, because this is really a story that needs to be told. And we really need to think about this when we're talking about nuclear weapons, which they are talking about right now. And they're all completely illiterate on the subject. So it is catastrophically alarming, which means I'm going to do some EFT, tap, 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 you know, the tapping, you know what tapping is, and throw some angel cards and do some tarot cards. That's what I do. I've actually been thinking that I'm going to do some tarot cards here on this channel about the nuclear stuff and about the Olympics and things, just to, who knows, just to do it. show you guys what I do in my off hours. Anyways, put your courage feet on, you guys.